Hey there, I'm Dane Sawyer, and this is a deep dive into the dry brushing paint technique for sculptures, miniatures, and models. Dry brushing is a super easy paint technique that gives you expert level results with saturated colors. You don't need a steady hand, you don't need fancy equipment, heck, you don't even need good quality paint. I'm gonna give you a detailed walkthrough on how to dry brush acrylic paint on your sculptures, models, or minis, including how to pick your colors, which brushes to use, and of course, how to do the technique. Let's do it. When to choose dry brushing for a project. Dry brushing is easiest to do and looks best on texture. If you have a highly textured sculpture or model, dry brushing will look great. It also works really well to give a weathered or aged look. It can make projects look more organic or more gritty. It can also make projects look more soft and furry. Which base color should I use for dry brushing? Your first step when you're dry brushing a model is to base coat everything in a dark color. The final colors will be built on top of this base layer. I like to get 2 steps in one and make this base layer serve as both my primer and my underpainting. This base will become the lowlights or shadows on the finished model. It will sit in all the crevices and low places in your texture, almost acting like shadows. Black is probably the most common base color people go for, especially in the terrain building or wargaming hobbies. Burnt umber, which is a dark brown, is a common choice for many other crafters, especially people who paint ceramic castings. Both of these are really good solid choices. I personally have been reaching for dioxazine purple a lot lately. I'm really loving how greens look on top of purple. There really are no rules though. I made this little test tile this morning and base coated it in yellow for a volcanic magma look. Most of the time you're going to want a dark color, but this just goes to show you can really base coat in any color you'd like. How do I base coat or prime my models for dry brushing? A really popular base layer or primer is black paint and matte Mod Podge. This was popularized by fellow Canadian and terrain building goat Jeremy of Black Magic Craft. This is a great option for minis and smaller models. If you're working a bit larger or you want something a bit thicker and more opaque, this is my recipe. I mix the paint of my choice with some watered down glue. Mod Podge would work fine here too. It's the same thing basically. And then I add some cornstarch. The cornstarch makes the mixture very matte. It ups the opacity by acting as a filler, and it increases the tooth or grippiness of the base layer. If you can't find cornstarch where you live, any cooking starch will work. If you're doing a project with a lot of fine details, you're going to want to put on your primer pretty carefully, making sure you don't fill the texture in with your primer. For me, my texture is pretty beefy, so I really just slap it on there. In either case, you want to make sure you have a really good coverage. Do 2 or 3 coats if you need it. A good solid base coat is going to make all the difference to the quality in your finish, and you're going to want to make sure it has dried really well before you move on to painting. What paintbrushes should I use for dry brushing? Grab whatever cheapo, schmeepo, coarse synthetic brushes you can find. You're going to be abusing the heck out of these brushes, so don't spend a lot of money. Whatever elementary school classroom level brushes you can get your hands on will work just fine. How do I pick paint colors for dry brushing? This paint technique works best with opaque or semi-opaque paints. For most quality paints, you can check the opacity on the bottle. Look for this little square symbol. If you have a paint color that you really want to use that is transparent, mix it with an opaque white. That's what I did with this yellow here. I mixed it with a bit of titanium white, laid that down, and then laid down just the pure cadmium yellow color on top. So I have a really opaque but true to hue color left as the result. When I'm dry brushing my projects, I like to pick 2 midtones and a highlight color. The midtones are just 2 shades of the main color. For example, on these bark pieces, I'm choosing 2 shades of brown. The highlight color can be a very light complementary shade like this gray, or sometimes it's fun to switch it up and use a contrasting highlight like the pink I used on these chicken feet here. If you're not sure which colors to pick, go with 2 tones of your main color and white for a highlight. How do I dry brush acrylic paint? After you've primed with a base coat and selected your color palette, the actual painting is really easy. I like to have a good supply of paper towels or scrap paper ready. You need to work the paint off your brush every time you pick up color. I do a quick dip into my color of choice, then I use a circular motion to remove a lot of that paint. Now I can use a scrubbing motion to apply the paint onto my piece. The trick here is to work up to your final color in layers. This technique allows you to build up a lot of depth in your color application. So even if you're just using 2 midtones and a highlight, you can do a few passes with your darkest midtone, get it to where you like, and then move on and do a couple more passes with your lighter midtone before you finish with your highlight. You can go slow and build up color gradually. You don't have to have it done in 3 steps. You want to make sure that each layer is dry before you move on to the next one. In most cases, this is almost immediately because you're using so little paint. It really doesn't take long to dry. If you find that your colors are getting a little muddy or lifting, hit the project with a hairdryer or walk away for a few minutes so the paint can dry a little better. Troubleshooting. If you mess up, you can always go back and repaint it in your base color. You can also wipe paint off with a damp cloth. Just be patient and let the piece dry before you give it a second try. If you find yourself being too heavy-handed with the paint, try keeping your wrist loose and holding the brush back at the end of the handle. This can help. As I said earlier, if you find your colors are getting muddy or lifting, you need to let your project dry more in between layers. Adding cornstarch to my base or primer layer has really helped me out with this issue because that cornstarch really sucks the moisture out of your subsequent paint layers. Another source of muddiness can be damp brushes. If you're washing your brushes between colors, really dry those bristles after washing. I keep an old towel around for this because paper towel doesn't seem to get the bristles dry enough for me. In a best case scenario, you're using a fresh, dry brush for each layer, but sometimes that's not realistic. So after you've washed a brush, just really make sure you dry it off very well. I hope you found that info to be helpful. Please give this video a like if you've learned anything new. Making all those textured tiles was really fun for me. I'll show some beauty shots of those in a sec, and I'll put lots of extra photos on my socials so you can get a good look at them. Subscribe to my channel for more affordable and accessible art info. I'm posting here as often as I can. For the readers in the group, all the information here will be summarized in an article over on JaneSawyerMakes.com. I've got lots of great resources for thrifty, creative people over there. Check it out, and I'll see you on the next one.